Hiya, this is Jenny from Just Being Me, and you're listening to the Learning to Love Yourself podcast, the show that inspires you to put yourself first.
Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness. Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness.
Here I am today with Carys Jukes from a most fabulous business called Mewstone Candle. Mewstone Candle is something that I came across and spent a lot of time with Carys because there's nothing in there that upsets my husband. And Carys is very, very particular about what goes into her candles. But not only that, Carys has had her own particular journey with self-care. So welcome, Carys. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So as Jenny said, I'm Carys Jukes, and I founded Mewstone Candle Company about 6 years ago. But prior to that, I was working in the corporate world for years and years and years, always striving to reach the top, always kind of feeling that I had to get somewhere. And then sadly, a few years ago, I lost my mum. And that really, I think probably for everyone is a massive, massive trigger. Although at that point I was working for, what was an awesome company, the Water Babies. So it was a fun company to work with, working with some really incredible people. And I think because of that, it masked what I was going through personally. Grief really kind of took hold without me realizing. And I kind of carried on for a little while and then kind of felt actually this wasn't working. Met somebody at an event who kind of said, look, come and work for us. Again, really fun franchise, the Creation Station. The woman who ran it was, when I say mad in a good way, just so kind of, off the wall. And for 6 months, it kind of felt really, really, really good. And then again, I kind of thought, I'm not happy. And I thought it was the job. It was me. Didn't really know, couldn't put my finger on it. Then I joined another organisation, franchising, much more corporate, events driven, loads of networking, all that kind of stuff. And again, first kind of 18 months, thought this is great. And then kind of start to realise that I was really, really unhappy. And it was something that people have kind of said to me, you're not the same person. You don't smile anymore. Your laughter's gone, very serious. And I would come home at the weekend. So I was working in Oxford, travelling all over in the UK, come home at the weekend and just be really depressed and really miserable and really kind of hostile. So if people came to visit for the weekend, I was kind of really like, I don't want my house, and it really started to kind of impact, who I was as a person. And I kind of actually, I'm becoming a strange person I know. And kind of, it went on a little bit, had some challenges around work. And again, I'll kind of go on to kind of the next phase as well. But really I realized that it just wasn't working. And I felt it was all grief driven. Little did I know, and I'll skip ahead in a while, but little did I know that actually there was a lot more to it than I realized. But I'd always been quite crafty. I'd always enjoyed kind of creating, being creative. And again, those kind of things have been stifled in my role. And I found a candle making kit in the loft my mum had bought me. And we were kind of working through stuff to get rid of. And I said to my other half Debs, I said, look, let's just, we'll give it to a school, take it to jumble sale, whatever. And she went, you can't, your mum bought that for a reason. And I really think you should do something with it. And it would be good to do something that maybe, you'll enjoy or take your mind away. So I said, fine, bought the candle kit home, made some candles, and they were absolutely crap. They just didn't burn properly. They didn't smell. And I was one of those annoying people that most things I turn my hand to, one of those frustrating people that it just kind of, in the past, had turned to gold. So I was kind of like, this just isn't right. This is not how it's meant to be. So I kind of said, right, that's it. So I went to Hobbycraft. We bought wicks, we bought fragrance oil, we bought wax, we bought all sorts of stuff. And we brought it back. And again, the obsession kind of continued, made more candles, lit them, still crap. And I'm thinking, this just makes no sense. There's got to be more to this. So I became incredibly obsessed. And again, we'll get to why I became incredibly fixated. It became my world to make candles. So every night, every weekend. And I was kind of doing this along. So it's kind of, it wasn't a side hustle at that point. It was a hobby. And then I started to kind of look at YouTube and joined forums and spoke to kind of people and realized actually when you come to make something, anything, there is a science, there is a logic, there are things you need to know. You can't just pick something up and it be perfect first time around. So a lot of research, a lot of crap candles. And then one day I made one, we lit it and I got really emotional about it because it was kind of like, God, I'd finally created something that worked. So that kind of continued and it was kind of building a bit of traction in the background. I never thought it'd be a business. I didn't really know where I was going to take it. I'd always had great ideas to kind of create businesses because I didn't like working for people. But eventually it got to a point where, I'd looked at the branding, and again, the branding again was kind of a healing process. So the short story is my mum lived in colourful stripes, which just always made me smile. And I like that. I think it's a genetic thing.
Yeah.
And her favourite book was Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which again, she kind of gave to me as a child, and kind of every few years would give me another book and write up a note in the cover. And it became my favourite book as well. And then the last element was I was very fortunate. My dad was a farmer. We grew up in a beautiful barn right on the cliffs. And the comical thing is I used to look out my window and see this kind of massive rock out at the sea. And that's the Mewstone, because if we went for a walk, we'd walk, a mile around the cliffs, and Mum and I would sit on a bench and we'd look at Mewstone and put the world to rights. So I was convinced that this rock I was looking at was the Mewstone. In fact, it was Burr Island. Which is, slightly different, but, but anyway, the Mewstone was a really important kind of part of that kind of self-care element, I guess, be able to talk to somebody, be able to offload, and not having Mum to talk to anymore. The candles became something that actually, even though she wasn't physically there, emotionally and mentally, she still was. So by creating this kind of brand, and it was kind of the brand kind of brought it all to life. And then I was given an opportunity about a really small little gallery in Nosmere, which is sadly closed now. And she said, look, we'll take some stuff. And again, she was one of Mum's good friends. So I think she's kind of just being nice. But it kind of gave me some impetus. And then after about 6-7 months, I just thought, you know what? Sod it. I'm done with bureaucracy. I'm done with red tape. I'm done with travelling to Oxford and all over the world. I'm not over the world, but all over the UK. Done with people trying to climb the corporate ladder and kind of, stab each other back, but it just became a bit messy, and I'd left the building, emotionally. So I just thought one day, do you know what, I'm done. And there was a bit of a situation, and I kind of sat there and thought, no, this is it. I'm done. So having been the safest pair of hands ever, never taking any risks, never had to take any gambles, just turned around and went quick and just walked out the building and came home, told Deb, who went, oh, well, fine. And did my garden leave. And then the business started in the October of 2019. It's before COVID, which was slightly daunting because obviously I'd left a good salary, a environment, a safe environment. Well, I thought it was a safe environment. Actually, it wasn't, in the sense of emotionally, it wasn't a safe environment for me. And kind of COVID hit, and I thought, we're screwed. I hate the phrase breadwinner, but I'd always been the main income bringer in and all those kind of things. So I thought, actually, I've really got to it's got to work. But strangely, there was always this unerring, and it's not confidence. There was something driving me. And again, I always believe it's Mum.
I was going to say, do you think it's your mum?
Oh, absolutely.
I absolutely would go with that. That's right up my street. I would.
Yeah.
Your mum's to bind you.
Well, she's there, and actually, I've the lady who's not a psychic, but very spiritual, who's coming to our studio, didn't know me, and she paused as she walked in one day, and she kind of was looking kind of to my left, and I was kind of, what are you looking at? And she went, oh, I don't mean to freak you out, but your mum's here, and it's bizarre because I don't know whether I necessarily believed in all that, but I kind of do now. I think, you're very lucky if you've got a guide in life. And so every decision I make, if you walk into the studio, and you've probably done it before, I'm talking to myself, and kind of having a full-on conversation about what I should do next, or is this a good idea? But anyway, kind of managed to come through COVID, worked at the local post office to kind of make ends meet. But I was happy for the first time in my life. I was truly, truly happy because actually I was master of my own destiny, and I'm responsible for everything. So with that kind of responsibility, kind of a lot of people go, oh my God, that's really scary. And, how do you cope with that? But actually, I think I kind of alluded to it before, but fairly recently, I've had an ADHD diagnosis, and that was the missing link in the puzzle. And that's when I realized that actually something that had made me feel very different, quite negatively, and I'd masked, something that a lot of women do. I'd hidden away, I didn't fit. I would become very overwhelmed very quickly, very frustrated very quickly. And actually that diagnosis kind of combined with that period of grief, interesting, the last year has been the most empowering thing that I've ever experienced, because suddenly you kind of go, actually, I'm not different. I just maybe look at things in a way that not everybody will look at them.
Which is actually your superpower.
Yeah. And I love it. And Deb, for years, have been frustrated by certain ways I approach things, certain things I did, being very consoling over things and not letting go of things. And so she's had to completely adapt the way she works with me. And in turn, the way that she's adapted has allowed me to kind of feel comfortable and safe to adapt the way I work. So actually, we have a business now that, has thankfully grown year on year. We still love it. I'm now getting so much time to be creative because, again, I was holding on to so much and not letting go, that now I've kind of let go and I've relaxed a little bit, and I kind of know who I am. I'm in a position where I can go, actually, I'm the one who comes up with the weird and wonderful, wacky ideas and thinks about this and thinks about that. And, we've taken on an accountant and we've got a photographer to do stuff. So suddenly all these people I've kind of gone, actually, you're not a threat and you can do it well. And actually you can probably do it better than me. So I'm going to come up with the weird and wacky stuff. And this year, we've been designing loads of new stuff, loads of white label stuff for independent shops and companies. We've been, coming up with some mad ideas with new ranges. There's ranges I've been working on for 2 years, couldn't bring forward, which are finally starting to move forward. So yeah, it's bizarre that you kind of have to go through something pretty shit to then kind of reflect and go, right, now where do I move? But I guess the thing is, because I didn't know, I knew I'd gone through a horrible scenario, but it was still blocked by this ADHD element. And so now I've kind of established that and worked that out. Now I'm like, oh my God, I can do what I want when I want. And if I get something wrong, it's okay. And as long as I'm genuine and authentic and I'm just me, if you like me and you want to spend time with me and you like our products, fantastic. If you don't, that's okay as well. And I'm not defensive about that anymore. So,
and it's an amazing thing when you begin to understand yourself, how those things change. And I don't know about for you, because as we were talking about the other day, when I came to see you, I also have been identified as neurodiverse. And when you know that, you can then create your own strategies for the way that you work, not the way that we've been adapting for years.
Yeah.
To try and fit in with everybody else. And when you say, Deb's adapted, you've been adapting for numerous years, just trying to fit into this place that society wants us to fit into, where if society allows us to just be, then actually we're a part. I was talking to somebody yesterday and I'm sitting here with my jigsaw because it's such a big jigsaw. It's now all over the table and we're having put things on top of the jigsaw to function. So I was talking to somebody and saying, look, actually, we're all totally unique. We make the jigsaw up. We need to have the tribes around us. Yeah. We're all a little bit different. Some have got orange tips and some haven't. We're all uniquely us. And if we're allowed to be uniquely us, then we can fit into our space of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
But I have spent so many years thinking, I don't fit in here. I don't fit in it. I've masked it and I've put a front on and I've done this and I've been very successful in various things that I've done, but it's not been right and I haven't been happy. I think it's a moment, isn't it? It's a moment.
It is. And I think it's the jigsaw analogy is actually really fascinating and spot on because, I was I guess we all are scattered pieces in many ways, and life and those experiences and the people you meet and the good things and the bad things, whatever happens, they're part of that journey. And I would say although that jigsaw will never be complete until the day that we shuffle this mortal coil, fundamentally
it keeps going, doesn't it?
Yeah. And fundamentally what's interesting is, maybe, if you use that analogy, I was that big jigsaw and it's not complete. There was that piece, when you finish a jigsaw and there's that one piece that you've lost that you've hoovered up. And I think, that piece for me had been hoovered up for years. And it's only when you empty the hoover and you pop it in and suddenly it just kind of all connects. And actually then what's fascinating is that part of that jigsaw is complete. And then you I found I kind of reflected on that for a bit and kind of stood still and came to terms with came to terms with just, this is who I am and this is therefore that I'm just going to go through life like this now. But actually what's really exciting is that then you start to add all the other pieces around it and the picture builds and it becomes more beautiful. And, for us, self-care and things was was at the bottom of the list for 4 or 5 years, was just head down, create this business. And again, with the ADHD stuff, I've spent, weeks and months procrastinating because I couldn't, all these blocks. And now I'm going to go, actually, if we want to go away for a weekend and I'm going to close the studio and the shop for a day, that's okay. That's fine. Because if somebody turns up, as long as I've put it, somewhere out on the internet to kind of cover my back, then, we can have time off. And actually that time off, we just come back from a weekend away and we walked, we ate too much, we chatted, absolute nonsense, but it was great. And we've never given ourselves the bandwidth to do that. So I think, last year was a massive year for us, and it was kind of 3-4 years in. And people always say with a business, 3-4 years. And actually we were very lucky from day one, it paid for itself and because it had to. But actually now it's kind of like, we're growing as people. The business is growing as a business. It's kind of an intrinsic part of us. So we're slightly candle obsessive, but we're learning. But we're slowly learning to kind of go, it's okay to have time out. It's okay if, I don't want to get in till, 5 minutes past 10 because, we're not going to have a queue of 20 people at the door. I mean, if we did, great. But again, it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily about having, the people queuing up for your product, because again, that validation previously was like, somebody bought my stuff. That feels great. Therefore I'm complete. Whereas now when people buy our things, actually, I kind of, yes, we all, as a small business, everyone jokes, do a dance every time you have an order, but you do, it's really exciting because somebody's putting their faith in you as an individual.
Yeah.
But that validation isn't so key anymore because we're a little bit more
validate yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and that for me is the point when I really flipped over. And that when I work with my clients and I see my clients, and you see that moment where you go, actually, nobody else but me matters. Nobody else can make me happy other than me.
Yeah.
And once I do that, then if I'm making me happy, then I attract the people around me that are my people.
Yeah.
And they support me to be happy and I support them to be happy. We support ourselves to be who the people we want to be. And therefore we're creating a world that is far more positive. And when the inevitable downs do come, because, sadly in this life, the only thing we can ever guarantee is that we're going to die. Down things are always going to happen in your world. But when you're in a place of knowing who you are and validating yourself, you cope with the down things much better.
You're spot on in the sense of when I used to hit the down times, it could really impact me. And I would find that I could almost stand in the studio for days on end, literally looking to thin air, just kind of zoning out and having these moments of actually, I don't know what I need to do. Something as simple as I need to post some stuff will become a task that's very difficult because, it could be something as simple as, somebody looked at me a funny way in the shop and that would really affect me because I'm thinking, well, what have I done? Why didn't they like me? And I think what's interesting is I was always cynical when people go, you've got to find your tribe. And I go, find your tribe and, all this kind of stuff. And it's, pardon the phrase, but wank word bingo, and it's like, actually, it's so true. And like attracts like, and people talk about manifestation, putting positive things out there, and actually absolutely 100% agree with that, because if you put warmth and happiness and positive stuff out there, it comes back to you. And then when something negative does hit you, I found, not all the time, sometimes I'll still kind of wallow in self-pity, but there'll be times when I look at something negative and I'll wallow for a day or so, which used to be a week or so. And then I go, right, okay, put the big girl pants on. That actually is not a negative thing. When you look at something perceived as negative, actually now I kind of look at it and I still have to have that downtime because that's, we're wounded and you lick your wounds and you kind of hide for a bit. And then you kind of look at it and you go, actually, what have I learned from that? And that is so powerful. Because when you kind of go, somebody looked at me funny in the shop, I wonder why. And before be like, I've done something wrong. And actually, they could be having a really shit day and they've looked at you in a negative way. And actually, if you give them a smile back, you're going to get a smile back from them. And I just think it's about being a little bit more intuitive and using the negative things and flipping them and kind of going, actually, this can be really powerful if I grab hold of it. So when I'm angry or frustrated, I used to kind of, I used to throw things sometimes, just occasionally. Whereas now I kind of think, actually, just stop. And I will write down why I feel angry or why I feel frustrated. I'm not a journaler, but I will write these things down because actually then I will kind of park it. Right, I've written that. That's gone for the moment. And again, maybe that's part of that ADHD brain of right. I've put that in a box. I've put it here, and that's that way, and therefore it's safe again. And before I wouldn't revisit it. Whereas now I'll revisit it and kind of go, right, okay, why did I feel that way? How can I change my reaction? And actually, how can I use that frustration and do something good with it? And actually then suddenly you kind of go, well, the negative stuff is just part of life's rich tapestry. It's part of a learning process. It's going to hurt sometimes. But actually, it sounds really weird, but the negative stuff is actually positive because it just forms who you are. And as long as you don't put a guard up and a barrier up, as long as you're open to it, you can use it. And actually, I find now that the frustration and the upset and the sadness and the anger is a driver, but also it's being able to kind of not just kind of go, right, I'm going to use that and off I go. It's kind of, you've got to kind of reflect on it because otherwise, 6 months down the line, it suddenly bites you.
Pack it away at the back and it's still going to come back. It's always there.
Mm.
It's, if you just pack it away, if you don't deal with it, it's always there. But I'm a firm believer in the fact, actually, we are sent the down stuff and we look at that down stuff and go, okay, what's the lesson can I learn from that?
Yeah.
What is something that I need to know from that? And I always, like you, write it down, look at it, ask myself why, ask myself whether the truth is in that, the reason why that I started doing the business that I'm doing now is because of the fact I actually asked myself a whole load of questions about why I wasn't doing it, because, people would judge me, people would laugh at me, people would, all these sorts of things. And actually they were a load of whatnot. And if anybody does judge me and laugh at me, they're not my people. And actually that's their issue, not mine.
But I think it's the thing, isn't it? When you talk about people, I had a coffee with someone today and I gave myself a morning off and kind of did coffee and did cake. Even though I'm on a diet, but I still did cake. It's great.
Everything in moderation, everything in moderation.
Exactly. I mean, as long as it's, 1, 2, 3 cakes a day, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I was talking to her about, people, and I was saying that, as I've grown up and matured and kind of had different experiences, there are people in my life now, and I said to us, it's going to sound very brutal, I said, but just hear me out. I said, my dad always said, you'll count your friends on one hand, your true friends, and they're the ones that you might not talk to all the time. You will turn to when something comes up that you need them for. And there's that mutual respect that they mean the world to you, but you don't need to be chatting every day. And then you've got those acquaintances, which are people that, you like spending time with. It's on maybe a slightly shallower level, not in a nasty way, but, you don't need to go into the in-depth conversations and all that kind of stuff. And then there's other people in life that you just kind of come across. And I used to kind of think, God, I juggle all my friends and, got all my Facebook friends and all this friends and all that friends. And then you kind of go, they're all great people, but actually they don't need me all the time and I don't need them all the time. And again, when you realize that you don't have to fill your social diary with, coffees and lunches and dinners and walks and things because you feel you have to connect with people. Again, there's this calm and this peace that comes over you where actually it's okay to spend time on your own and just chill out. And it's okay to say, actually, I don't fancy going out for girls' night out because I'd rather put my jammies on and my fleece on and light the fire and drink coffee and have a quiet night in and watch a movie. And I think, again, as we get older, you realize those things. And that in itself is just a lovely thing because, again, I'm not apologetic about it because I know that people that need me will come to me when they need me. And that's okay. That's fine.
I think once you've learned to validate yourself and once you've learned who you are, you then don't need all of these other things for the dopamine hits.
Yeah.
Because the dopamine hit is just a spike and it comes back down again.
Yeah.
And actually, when you can validate yourself and when you can go to yourself, do you know what? Actually, maybe I don't think that person likes me. That's okay. Not everyone can like me and I don't like everybody.
Yeah.
And once you can go in that place and wish that person well on their journey, then it's much easier. And I've just noticed that I just don't need all of the other stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't need all of that proving myself, pretending to be somebody else so that I can fit in with another crowd of people. So I've got loads of friends and, actually like you, I have my tribe that I go to, but they're all different and they all are part of my jigsaw.
Yeah.
So I have my one of my very best friends. We go and do all sorts of things together, and we chat about all sorts of things. But if I'm upset, she doesn't do upset. She knows I'm upset. Don't know what to do with this, and you can see she's really uncomfortable. She is not the person that I go to for that. But that doesn't mean to say, oh, she didn't support me. That's just not her part of my jigsaw.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I have another person that I know that I can call at 4:00 in the morning, or when it's peeing down with rain because my car's broken down, and they will get to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
From hell or high water, they will get to me. And it's creating and knowing that you've got these people in your world. And then you just can kind of go, that's where I want to be. And so I don't need the dancing in the nightclubs, and I don't need the big girls' nights out anymore. It's nice every now and then, but I don't need them on a regular basis. And it's just a much simpler life, isn't it? Because you're not fighting with yourself all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? And I don't know whether, the ADHD thing was part of that. I don't necessarily think that things part, make it maturing a little bit, but I think it's just when you people always say, you have to learn to love yourself before you can love someone else.
Talking about the ADHD, there's something else that I've identified the more I talk to people who are neurodiverse. And a lot of people get very scared by that word. But it just means that we function differently. Our brains function in a different way. The extreme levels of anything is always quite extreme. But, most mainstream, I feel are able to see a person for who they are because we read different communication levels. Because I know for years and years and years, what's come out of my mouth has been what I thought people needed to hear. But it's a really interesting thing because my daughter's very alike, and she says to me, well, you know what happens when we can see things in people that they don't want. And you kind of, people are saying words and you can see all of their other bits of language going the totally opposite thing to what they're actually saying. And I think that's part of your superpower because, I come to you, well, I'm never there less than at least 2 minutes of mine. We smell candles. We put the world to rights. It's part of my self-care because smell is very important to me. It's part of my self-care because my husband can't deal with chemicals or anything like that. And Carys, I know her candles, being that you hyper-focus on all this stuff, I know and I trust that your candles do what they do. And you will even say to me, this smells probably not very good for him. Don't do that one. You personalize it down to that level. So it's really important now that I can now have smells back into my world. And I go to one of your candles and go, okay, I want to feel like this today. So I have this, as I have different smells in different parts of my house because it works for me and it's part of my self-care. But just as much as coming and going there is that we sit there for 2 hours, like a cup of tea in hand, maybe 2, chat dogs, and it isn't just animals that we chat, but it's dogs, it's life, it's all sorts of things, isn't it? And it's a couple of hours of where it's just filling cups, it's just topping up on your filling of your cup, and it's kind of really important to me to know that I'm going to get my couple of hours. I even now let you know I'm coming, don't I? So get the smells ready, woman. And so I do think it's important. I do think it's important the people you have around you make you feel not make you feel because you make you feel the way, but having the people around you that support the way that you want to feel.
I think you're so right because we were saying that generally, we've made so many friends through the business. You're particularly one of them. And so I get a warning. Are you in? Yes, I'm in. Yeah. And there's 5 or 6 people that will message you who we never knew before who, are around because they know when we created that space, all I wanted to do was create a warm environment, although it's quite chilly in there, but a warm emotionally, a safe environment. People could walk in. My first phrase is generally, I'm really sorry about the mess. And people are like, really, it's fine. It's a creative space. And there's always somewhere to sit and the kettle's always there and we've got a loo. So we joke and say, cup of tea and a wee and you're fine. But, people come in, they kind of go, it's really warm and we're not distracting. It's like, no, I can still get on with stuff while you're there and we're not hiding anything. Come and have a look at what we're pouring, smell some of the fragrances we're working on, and it's interesting again for us that people will come in and again, you get that feedback immediately if you work on new stuff or people see what you're doing. We've had people come in and, very stereotypical because actually more and more men actually really like candles. But when we first opened, it was the ladies would come in, men would kind of stand there like this in the corner, kind of maybe, make a fuss of the dog. And now the men are kind of coming over, kind of, they're the ones kind of looking at the smells and getting really into it. And we'll be pouring, can I give them a chance to pour some candle? It's, for us, it's about when somebody comes in, there's an experience without it having to be officially experienced. So we want people to come in, and when they leave, if you buy something, great. If you don't, that's fine as well. We're not very much like, if you come in here, you've got to buy in. And we've had people walk in and go, I'm just going to have a browse. And I'm like, honestly, feel free, just browse. And they might be there half an hour, and they might walk out the door having not bought anything. But then what we tend to find is a few weeks later, they come back in with a friend and they go, I just wanted to show my friend. And again, they might buy bits, but for us, it's not about coming in. We've got that shop here, but it's more about coming in.
Community coming into you. It is, I mean, you know that when I come to you, I come, and, talking men, I come with an order from my daughter's partner and from my son, because, and now literally I go, I'm going to the candle place. And they go, everybody puts their order in, don't they?
Yeah.
There's always a gingerbread, there's always a honey and tobacco, and that's both the boys, and that's the real nice thing, is because of the fact, actually, for me, that wouldn't necessarily, I'm not the gingerbread and the honey tobacco person. That's not my smell. Yeah. That's their smells. And we've identified they like that. And, they've had a good smell of it. They'll come into my house and go, what's that one then? And smell that one, Yeah. And it's almost like they're coming in and smelling the food, oh, that smell. And it makes them feel good, and they love it too, So it is very much, I can understand why people think candles, women, but, men very much more. Smells are important to people, aren't they? They evoke things.
And I think I was saying something that's only recently I've kind of realized that it's a real privilege to create something that. So when we started making candles, it was just, I'm going to make candles with a kit, and, I've come up with some branding, and, of course there was a lot that went into it, but we were just making candles. It could have been at that point any product. It just so happened that candle making kit was in the loft, and it was left there. There was a reason it was left there, but you look back and go, okay, that makes sense now. But I was into branding and marketing, and that was kind of what made me tick. So it could have been, it was kind of like the brand came first, and then it was, okay, it'll be candles. And initially when I started making candles, it was more a scientific thing of, I've got to get this to work because it doesn't make sense that it doesn't work. And actually what I found is, again, being more at ease with me and understanding where we're going, and, kind of, we don't have a 5-year plan, I'm never going to have a 5-year plan, because actually, I'm lucky if I can kind of cope, 15 minutes ahead. Well,
the brain doesn't allow for that. Yeah, I have things that I have a spidergram, and I just have legs off going, and I want to do, and I want to do. And I kind of go, oh, look, I'm now in the space to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Like your 2-year projects that you haven't been able to going, is now you're in the space to do that,
And I think that's the other thing as well, because before, obviously the candles we made meant something, but they meant something very different then. They were a healing process, whereas now it's become a creative process. And so the stuff that's maybe been on the bench for a couple of years, we kind of get, and we're looking at fragrances going, actually, we need to tweak this fragrance, or, it's not quite burning right, or we look at packaging and the whole experience around it. It's not just, is it going to look really good on a shelf in a shop? Of course, that has an impact. But again, we didn't create the stripes because we thought, look on the shelf, we create the stripes because it meant something, and they do stand out, which is great. But it's that thing of kind of going, actually, let's look at the complexities around this. What do those fragrances and those smells and those flavors people come up with? What does it evoke? So, the new stuff we're looking at kind of go, actually, before I kind of go, well, I'm going to make, our first candles, baked apple pie, pina colada, baked wild tart, pear drops. They were fun. They were, they weren't sensible. And that was me at that point. And actually now, again, as we've kind of grown, we've learned more, our fragrances are becoming more complex, and when we're looking at launching these new ranges, rather than going, oh, I like that, I like that, and I like that, and I like that, we're going, well, actually, we need something floral, and we need something kind of woody, and we need something that's bright, and we need something that's got some sweetness. But there's got to be more complexity around it. And so again, the new stuff we're working on, there's much more of a thought process. And actually, I'm okay and I'm comfortable with the fact that it's taking some time to get right. because once it's out there, it's out there. And I don't want to be tweaking it and changing it.
Yeah.
And I think when we first put stuff out, it was pretty rubbish, really. I look back at some of the original candles we made, we still got, and you like one, and you kind of go, can't believe somebody bought that. But that's okay, because we compare, it's not like for like. So, we're 5 years on in that corner. Yeah. And I love that. Yeah. And I love the fact that you look back and I go, that's a really rubbish candle. And we've got someone on the shelves in the shop and people go, I go, you can have that. But, when you light it, just, keep an eye on it, and might time it, might this and might that. And, it comes with all the kind of, the reasons to why it's rubbish. And then people message and go, actually, it's a really nice candle. And I go, oh, okay. But I've moved on from that. So, that's a part of my journey business-wise and my journey life-wise that was almost kind of that part of the journey. Therefore, I guess I associate
that with your part.
Yeah. Whereas now it's like we're feeling more, we're flourishing, we're feeling more happy, and we're more confident about things. And therefore, what we're producing now, there's a real sense of pride over it. And there was with the other stuff, but that was the best thing back then. Yeah.
That's the reflection, isn't it? This is the period where you're more comfortable. It's reflecting that. So one last question, Carys, because you and I could talk, but one last question, and I already know the answer to this, but I just kind of want to put it out there. Do you consider making your candles part of your self-care?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
And it's so interesting, because when I talk self-care to people, and when I talk, self-care, people go, self-care, taking a bubble bath and that sort of thing. And actually, self-care is anything that lights you up. And when you listen to you, when you watch you, you are lit up by your candles. You are lit up by the smells. You are lit up by the process. You are lit up by the fact that actually Deb is there working alongside you. You are lit up by so many parts of your business that it would just be an absolute shame not to have your business, wouldn't it? And it may have taken you a while to get there, but this is the place that you were meant to. It really feels like this is the place you were meant to be this moment in time. It's an amazing feeling watching you. Shopping really is.
It's I remember saying to an old boss years ago, we had to sit at the top of the hill and look down at kind of what you've created and what you've achieved and all those things. Like I hate the word achieve because the measure of achievement is different for everyone. But actually, we were away this weekend in the Cotswolds, and we did actually climb a hill, kind of look down a bit. And I kind of had that moment of, you look around you and look at the environment around you, and then you then take that kind of ethos into what you've built or what you've created. And, for me, it's not about building, a huge business and loads of profits. The business gets to a point where we can be comfortable. Great. Because that's all that really matters in life. And someone said to me, what do you want to achieve? And I went, I want to be content, I want to be comfortable, and I want to feel loved. And actually, for me, genuinely, that's all that matters. As long as I've got a shirt on my back and I've got, food and somewhere warm to live, and we're very, very lucky to have what we have. Actually, you take that and you realise that, life's pretty good. And that's what it's about, isn't it?
Absolutely. Carys, thank you so much for coming and talking to me today.
That's a pleasure.
We will put all of the details of your business down below. You can buy online from you, so you don't need to necessarily be in our locality to actually walk in from the shop. And also, do you have a list on your website of where people stock?
We do, although again, that's hard finished, like most things in my life. So actually, I'm going to finish that.
That's what we love, Carys. That's what we love. If you want to know if there's any way you can go and smell, give Carys a call, give her a message, and she'll let you know. Because top secret at the moment, she says, telling the world. But Carys and I are going to be in discussions about creating some candles for Just Being Me. So we need to have those in our world. It may not be this year. It may be, because Carys needs to create them. And that's a process in itself. Never like me going in there and going, oh, that's slightly too woody, or that's like, so, that'll be part of my self-care for
the next 10 years or so, Yeah.
So we'll put everything down below. It's been amazing talking to you, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again later on and do see where you are in your world then.
Thank you so much.
Carys.
Take care of me.
If you feel you need a little bit of self-care accountability, then Just Being Me's accountability group is the perfect place for you. You'll be part of an incredibly supportive community, be held accountable for daily affirmations and gratitudes, as well as group coaching twice a month. As a founding member, it's only £15.15 per month if you join before the end of February. Click the link below. Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.